Assalamu alaikum, this is Fatima from the Punjab School. This is the first episode of our broadcast, and today we have a very special guest here, an English lecturer who has not only excelled in teaching but has also completed a PhD in her field. Thank you so much for being here, ma'am.
It's my honor to be here. Assalamu alaikum. I'm Ummul Huda. Uh, are you going to ask me a question or my introduction?
I was just going to ask you your introduction, so you can do that.
All right. So I'm Dr. Ummul Huda, currently serving as a lecturer of English at GC Women University, Sialkot, and the rest of the time of my day goes to the Punjab school. My weekends are dedicated to the school as well. Uh, about my educational journey, as you just mentioned, I recently completed my PhD, and the field that I chose to work on is educational psychology. So that actually became a passion for me. Basically, my education has always been, purpose driven. It wasn't just a decision that was made in a day. Actually, my choice of discipline was basically shaped with time by my exposure to various classrooms, educational systems, and institutions, and gradually as my interest developed into the field of child psychology, the educational psychology, the emotional well-being of students, especially at primary level, and how the education system and the schools are contributing towards it.
Great, great. So, how did your journey in completing your PhD begin? Like, what challenges did you face and everything?
Uh, it has been quite a long journey, to be very honest. Actually, when you step into the field of educational psychology, uh, you're not just studying behaviors, you're not just studying psychology of the participants of your study. It actually affects yourself as well. When I went into various classrooms at private sector, at public sector schools, I met students, I met their parents, their families, and since it was a qualitative research, uh, it had times when I was so frustrated and I was so feeling so low and depressed that I wanted to just give it up.
Oh my God.
But eventually, since I just mentioned that shaping and first understanding and then shaping the behavior of young children, the students who are coming towards our schools, it was such a passion that kept me going. I woke up every day with a new will to work for the better emotional development of our children, of our society. So that is how it was shaped gradually.
So you have talked about your journey, but what encouraged you to pursue this advanced study?
Basically, before I embarked upon the journey of my PhD, I was actually teaching at a government sector, at a public sector school. And at that time, I came across students from various, diverse backgrounds and from diverse family structures. And at that time, I was young, I was inexperienced, and I came across students from, who were nurtured by the society and labeled as problematic students and all that. Uh, there were times when I actually cried that I didn't want to work there, that I did not want to teach such children, that it was so difficult to manage a classroom at that level. Uh, my father basically became the driving force behind me, and he encouraged me. He taught me some strategies. Just to mention that he is also an educationist. He also did his PhD in education. So he was there behind me, and I would share my day-to-day stories with him, and he would guide me.
So he was a mentor.
He was there. He was there all the time, listening to my stories and telling me what could be done for a particular child when he was behaving that way. And with that, he actually encouraged me that I could shape all those learnings from those classrooms. While I was teaching, I was learning about the behavior of students. So that shaped my interest towards education. And then I chose education as my field of higher study. And gradually, it took a turn towards educational psychology, and that became the crux of my research.
So, what was your specific research areas during your PhD?
The topic of my PhD dissertation was a study of disruptive behavior of primary school students, its causes, and remedial measures. The study basically explored that the behaviors that students exhibit within a classroom, especially at primary level, are their modes of communication. That is how they communicate about what they want, what they expect from the school, from their teachers, and from the society in general. So before labeling students at that level as problematic, chaotic, not a good child, a spoiled student, we need to understand the root causes behind certain behaviors of students, and we need to address them with empathy. That is what my research was about.
So, why did you choose this disruptive behavior in students?
Because it became a challenge for me. It was problematic for me.
So, your experience led you to
Exactly.
research this.
Exactly.
Okay. So, how was your overall experience in all this researching and writing about your thesis?
Uh, you could say it was a very long journey because I lived my research through every participant of my study. Since it was qualitative research, I did not have a lot of participants in, as in other fields like in quantitative research, you do not generally interact with your the participants of your study. But I shared the experiences and the lifestyles of the students that were who participated in my study. I met their families, I visited their homes, I visited their school, and uh, I learned firsthand from them how the school was treating them, how their teachers were towards them, what were the concerns of their parents regarding them. So it was a very emotionally challenging journey as well, alongside the pressure of professional writing. Like it was chaotic, but eventually, alhamdulillah, I uh, made it through.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
So now that we know that your research was about disruptive behavior in students, what do you think causes this disruptive behavior? Like, what's the main cause?
You see, there is no just not just one cause. Uh, I would call my research experimental because it was not focused on only proving, whether this strategy works or not. It was about finding solutions, and
Solutions.
every child is a different individual, a different human being. Two students might exhibit similar behaviors, but the root causes behind their behavior would be different if we identify behind them. Some students come from broken families, some students come from backgrounds where at home they are
Maybe
not
their
paid
spoiled
attention.
behavior was from trauma or something.
Exactly. But trauma could be one of the causes of behind such behaviors. As I just mentioned, that behavior is actually communicating something that is going on in the background of the mind of that child, and that thing that is triggering the child to behave that way needs to be addressed before we label that child that he's spoiled and he cannot be taught and he cannot excel in academics. We need to focus on what is hindering that child from excelling in academics.
I think this is what therapy is. Like, the child actually expresses all their feelings, and the therapist actually finds a solution for them.
Exactly, but you see, in our education system, since majority of our schools cannot afford psychologists and therapists within the school. So my study basically focused on how could the teachers be trained enough to identify the roles of the therapists. Like it included various suggestions such that could help the teachers in building a stronger bond with students who had some problematic behaviors, some I would call that behaviors that hindered the normal classroom activity. So when teachers are trained enough and assume the role of the psychologist and the therapist, they can do wonders.
Now, from your experience, how does like a child expresses the disruptive behavior? What does it look like?
Uh, I would say disruptive behavior would look like the first and the foremost thing that the teacher notices is not responding to the instructions of the teachers, not acting as the teacher expects him to, or simply just defying the requests or the orders of the teachers. It might appear as harming others, disturbing their classmates, harming themselves as well. I observed even such behaviors, and it could be like fighting with others constantly, just causing chaos,
Emotional
doing
stress.
anything except focusing on the studies.
So, like you said, that teachers can be therapists. So, teachers and parents, because I think parents can also be a psychologist and therapist to their children. How can they manage and support children who are showing such symptoms of disruptive behavior?
You see, alongside the school, a heavy responsibility lies upon the parents as well. When parents and teachers work together, we do not just ensure academic success, we ensure a better, a healthier society. So the crucial role that has to be, assumed by the parents is to listen, is to observe their child, to listen to him, and understand that the grades of their child are not the only thing that matters. The emotional support that they can offer their kid is just as important as the academic excellence.
Yes. So, let's move on from this topic for now. But can you please share a bit about your personal experiences about working in private and public education institutions?
Yeah, I have been working both at private and public sector schools. Both have their own pros and cons. There are several differences in the system, and private schools, actually, private institutions, fill the gaps that have been left by the public sector system, since the public sector has to face the challenge of population pressure basically, and then limited resources. So these gaps can be actually filled by the private sector. However, private sector does have its own cons as well.
What will be the pros and cons of both?
You see, now first and foremost, if we consider the public sector institutions, it's job security. Basically, there is job security, and then there is an interaction with diverse population, because
Too much population can hinder them.
basically students from a diverse background approaches public sector first. So a teacher has a chance to interact with a
All of
diverse
them,
classroom.
yes.
If we observe the cons of the public sector, that is what I faced as well, is a hindrance, a resistance towards innovation, towards change. The process of policy implementation is really slow at public sector. And then to top it all, limited resources, obviously. So if we consider the pros of private sector institutions, you see, first and foremost thing is that they have access to modern technology. there is room for innovation, there is room for skill development of teachers and students as well.
More choices to the students.
Exactly. And if we consider the cons of the private sector institutions, it would be like job insecurity. Basically, people who are in the professional field love to go towards the public institutions because of job security primarily. So, private sectors have job security issues, and then there could be issues with the commercial aspects of the profit and all that. So both the systems have their pros and cons, but if they go hand in hand, they could lead towards shaping a better society.
So, what do you think is the main difference? Like one difference that classifies both public and private institutions?
Uh, I would say that a teacher has more, opportunities to polish himself, to nurture himself into a better professional at private institutions. However, in a public sector institution, since there is a population pressure, there are larger classrooms, teachers have, a limited room for growth there. That is what defines both the public and the private sector in my eyes.
And as a student, I was looking forward to asking you this question. What advice would you like to give to students who want to excel academically and personally?
You see, I see yourself, private sector student. Your school is basically nurturing you to be a confident individual in the society. You are not defined just by your grades. A student is who he is internally, what he can contribute towards the society. So, my advice for students generally would be to speak up for themselves, to be confident enough to
Because
ask
there is
questions.
a main problem that everyone wants to like students to be perfect, and there's a thing that nobody can be perfect. So yes, it's quite a pressure to maintain all the reputation and things like that to climb up to the expectations of the parents and all.
Uh, exactly, that is a huge pressure, and we'll move towards. I would like to advise parents and teachers as well in that regard. However, first of all, for students, I would like to say that question these values that have you pressurized for better grades and not focusing on your own emotional well-being. If an individual is emotionally broken, academic excellence would not stay long term. What you are inside is that is going to contribute to the society in the longer run.
So I want to ask your opinion about how does TPS creates a meaningful impact on the community and its students.
As far as I have observed and spent my time with the Punjab school, uh, it's just not shaping, academic lives of the students. It's actually nurturing social values. And the good thing that basically attracts me is that behavioral patterns are being shaped, and the society in general is having a huge impact. It has its societal impacts in that can be observed within the society. The parents enter the gates of the school with hopes and dreams for their children, and the school helps them to realize those dreams and turn them into reality. And that's a good thing to observe, that the school is not only focusing on the academic success of the students, but also the emotional well-being of its students as well.
Me as a student, I really like what you said, and I'm very happy with my school and all. So I'm asking for another advice, and this is not for me; it's for the parents. So how should parents support their children's education?
You see, parents cannot just rely on the school for the well being of their children. The students are here for like 5 to 6 hours a day, but the rest of their day is spent with their parents. So I would request the parents to not see their children just as the grade bringing beings that who are whose value is measured only by their grades, but to be there for them even if the child is not performing well academically. Look deeper, listen
Find the
better.
habits.
Yeah, look deeper, listen better, and try to find out the factors that are affecting their academic excellence. It might be anything. As I just mentioned, emotional support matters way more than the academic, just grades and marks. When they are well emotionally nurtured, their grades would already, immediately begin to boost, and you will see them improve in their academic lives as well.
Because if their health, like mental health, is good, then I guess their grades will also increase.
Exactly, exactly, they go hand in hand.
Yes. So this is an important question, and I think the answer you will give will be very important to all the parents. How can parents recognize and address disruptive behavior early at home, like without asking the school or without the school complaining to them about the child's behavior?
You see, since basically school is the place where disruptive behavior is mostly noticed because of the atmosphere of discipline. At our homes, when a home lacks discipline, it's difficult to notice. You see, if the parents are not conscious enough of a student going, beyond what is normal expected behavior of a child, it might not be noticed if the discipline is not ensured at home. If the discipline at home is ensured, a child finds it easy to adapt to the disciplinary atmosphere at school as well. So, such things might help parents early on to recognize any deviations in the patterns of their behavior.
Okay, so thank you for all the information and insights that you have given us. And I have not met many people that are as knowledgeable as you. Thank you so much for being here.
It's just been an honor to talk about the topic that has been so close to my heart for like last 6 to 7 years, and that has actually shaped who I am as a person today. And to think about it, like I am not that knowledgeable of a person, but when passion speaks, that is the feeling you get.
Because as a student, I have only just entered ninth, and the way you talk, the way you speak, your qualifications has inspired me so much. And
I am truly honored to listen to that. Thank you so much.
so that was it for today. Thank you to all the viewers to listening to us. Because we will be here again with more episodes with more guests, and that was it for today. Allah Hafiz.